Good morning, wrestling fans, and welcome to the latest edition, the August 9th, 2014 edition of WrestleTalkShow. I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, here to bring you the latest and greatest professional wrestling news, bits, rumors, anything and everything wrestling. We cover it at facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow, facebook.com/CWE Company, our video archive here, and at youtube.com/CWE Company. Our interactive website, social media, anything and everything wrestling you can interact with. We want our fans to be a part of the show. We want to apply your thoughts and opinions to the topics. We want to bring this back as gently and as abruptly at the same time as possible. This coming off big wrestling news this weekend, or this week rather. The name of Alberto Del Rio remains a hot topic after the four-time world champion was released from his WWE contract on Thursday. Shortly after WWE announced Del Rio was let go, quote, due to unprofessional conduct and an altercation with an employee, Ring of Honor founder and RF video owner Rob Feinstein claimed Del Rio slapped a member of WWE's social media team at a television taping this week. The claim was backed up by both F4WOnline.com and PW Insider. As members of the F4W online message boards were discussing Del Rio's termination and speculating which WWE employee was on the receiving end of the slap, Wrestling Observer editor Dave Meltzer remarked, Cody, the name of the alleged victim of the altercation was Cody Barbieri. On both social media sites, LinkedIn and Twitter, Barry identifies himself as WWE's manager of social media live events. Though not identified by name, F4WOnlines.com updated story on Del Rio's termination says the altercation involved the social media manager of WWE. According to the new report, WWE's social media manager was supposedly asked to wipe his plate clean following a meal in catering. He allegedly joked that it was Del Rio's job to clean the plate, which could be perceived as racist by Hispanic people. Del Rio was informed of the comment and confronted him. The individual did not apologize for his remark and then smiled at him. Fuming Del Rio slapped him. Like I said, this is an not unconfirmed, but kind of a big shocker considering Ricardo Rodriguez was just released last week due to budget cuts. We have the most recent termination of a 30-year timekeeper released by WWE.com. Released by WWE. WWE, as you know, claiming a restructuring during its last Thursday's shortfall of the projected WWE Network subscribers it thought it would have by this conference call. You have a lot of people going into their first 6-month renewal that PW Torch editor-in-chief Wade Keller and James Caldwell report. I was listening to the Thursday edition of featuring Greg Parks. By the way, great material these guys have at pwtorch.com. And I can't help but profoundly agree that you're going to have a lot of people, and they're facing a lot of people that just don't want to spend $9.99. And no matter how many videos we release, there's only so many ways, and Greg Parks pointed this out, that 6 months to a couple of years from now, even a year from now, I'd say you wouldn't even have to wait that long, WWE is going to have its steady flow of numbers that it's not going to be able to inflate. People that have the network will have the network. 6 months from now into a year, you'll see the trend, and that will be the trend. what you're facing now is what I've seen Monday night and Friday night, DVRing SmackDown, is a blatant push, not even coming up as James Caldwell reported for Thursday's edition, not even coming up with a creative way to entice people. Just kind of throwing, hey, it's $9.99, it's $10, it's SummerSlam, and something I didn't even think about that James Caldwell brought up. Well, is that saying that for years you charged pay-per-view subscribers a flat $60 plus their cable providers and WWE's taxes and fees for so many years for a product that you care about? Or were you gouging us over the head on something that you're ultimately underselling? As wrestling fans well know, SummerSlam has been the staple of the 4 or 5 pay-per-views WWE has a year that establishes the road to WrestleMania. SummerSlam is one of them. And when you more or less say both Monday and Friday, hey, it's only $10, come see I think the right off the bat into the first promo SmackDown released, the opening promo with Dean Ambrose and Seth Rollins said it all, that they're not even trying to sugarcoat that they need subscribers hard. As we reported last week, WWE projecting 1 million subscribers by this point, only falling to about 636 subscribers. As we said, it's lost, 120,000 subscribers. So you do the variation as we reported in last week's video. You can go back and view those. We'll provide the link on this new video in the comment section as we're getting the new video page. The youtube.com/CWE company channel will be the archive channel for these videos, and what is projected now will be the new channel for WrestleTalkShow. We'll leave that first channel that was created in 2011 as our video archive. We encourage you to go back for hours and hours of literally free content. Just us having fun here, producing a show. I know my sister, my dad, and my brother-in-law all joke. And it's not really a joke anymore, especially with WWE saying that it's restructuring its company. We've called WWE the wrestling giant for so many years that ultimately, if you look at it now, right now it's at its weakest point that it's ever been in. And it's kind of creepy, but you have to go back to previous videos, youtube.com/CWE company, and we bring all this up. This was projected in 2011 when Vince McMahon was spending money and having massive amounts of money released to him to make the network and then release the network, every conference call telling investors next year, to finally what we're facing now, the actual release of the network and WWE's short-winded attempt at 1 million subscribers. And let me make this clear. What we've said for years is that, yes, the likes of John Cena, Randy Orton, Triple H, they'll be your staples that we feel should be the staples, and I think a lot of wrestling reporters would agree. Yes, all these men should be the safe bets for the company. All these men should pull the company. John Cena with a tenure of over 10 years, Triple H over 20, Randy Orton over 10 years, should be the staples to push over NXT, to bring up NXT talent, main event talent. How many times can you regurgitate R-Truth before we see him let go? Just an example. I mean, I'm just vaguely remembering topics that we covered from 2011 to 2013. So that's a 2-year span of where we predicted all this, where they spent money when times were good And now, as Wade Keller reported last week, they're kind of out of the pay-per-view network. You can't use their pay-per-view revenue every quarter because it's all filing into the network. It's all going to stream in one, as it streams as one entity now. Say goodbye to it. Say goodbye to your $60 pay-per-views, but also say goodbye to that separate revenue stream and that separate market where you could say, hey, our live events might suck. As we reported years ago, attendance has been low, not as low as a TNA taping, but TNA's actually gotten better. I'd argue quality over quantity in this instance, because TNA either knows it's getting renewed, or TNA went out with a bang, having its last taping that will probably air the end of September, this past Thursday night. WWE kind of did what any business would do, except WWE, Vince McMahon kind of said, let me do this to the shareholders, and we've said it wouldn't have been so bad if he were to just come out and say to his shareholders, hey, over the next couple of years, we're going to launch the network. I need X amount of dollars to launch the network. This will be not only the future of pay-per-views, but the future of the company on a multi-platform, on multiple platforms, and this is the future of the company. Now he's more or less having taken every conference call leading up to the network launch as we're getting there, 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 boom, we're here. And where is he? He spent all this money, and now they're backpedaling to kind of trim the fat from the company, and at the same time tell wrestling fans, hey, it's only $10, but as we bring it around full circle, you're marketing SummerSlam as, hey, it's only $10. Where fans like me, fans since 1999, Pennsylvania State Wrestling Promoter, have been paying $60 for pay-per-views for 2 to 3 years. And are you undervaluing the asset, or coming across that you... This makes my head spin. Because there's only so many, cut and dry, there's only so many ways you can say it. They fell short on the numbers. And how long can you lie to the investors before the routine numbers come out and they start to see it's not going to get any better? This is what subscriber rate we're going to deal with year to year, because you can only, like we said, 6 months to a year from now, you're going to have your steady subscribers. There's already the first renewal process happening now from the original launch 6 months ago that they're not going to get. They're either going to get some drop off with some pickup, well, a little bit of both. They're either going to lose something, they're going to find that they lost subscribers, or it's a wash, because like James Codwell and Greg Park said again Thursday, pwtorch.com, are wrestling fans, you're at a crossroads where wrestling fans may be content with the product, content with the number of hours of content they get on cable. I mean, look at your average cable bill, $150, $200, and you're already guaranteed what, 5 to 8 hours a week of WWE product, not to mention your 2 hours of TNA Impact, which you're seeing some of the best wrestling in years. Some fans are reporting WWE, a huge international rollout for this network coming this week, at the start of this week, to Australia, where they're touring now, and one correspondent reporting in that there's no mention of the network at this show, and you've got to wonder why. Another topic we go into is this has been Dixie Carter's pet project for years. TNA has a way of bouncing back. They have corporate backers. They're not a sinking ship yet, but they're kind of in a position where they're appeasing to the Spike executives that are at these tapings, probably saying, hey, you're having the best wrestling entertainment time of your life. Don't you want to continue to support this product? And either TNA is saying, let's, as a promotion and professionally, go out with a bang, or let's give them the best shows we can, because we're about to announce that someone else or Spike has renewed us. As we've mentioned last week, TNA's deal expiring in October does not mean that they're not talking out now what will happen at the end of October. It's a double-edged sword, because, as we said, it could also be Spike being as nice as possible by concurring with TNA, as they won't comment on ongoing negotiations. Might be a way for Spike to bow out gracefully and give TNA the respective time it needs to pick up another cable provider. But as Greg Parks said, most people forgot, Bound for Glory's right around the corner, and these tapings are usually the matches that mold the Bound for Glory series. And it never crossed anyone's mind, any of these correspondents, PW Torch, Smart Wrestling Fan, Joe Negron, how you doing, bud? It never crossed anyone that TNA would not have the TV taping to bring what is essentially their WrestleMania back this year. And what you have here is just a lot of bad news for TNA. I think outside the wrestling, we have here that Vince Russo is now talking about. Vince Russo, I believe, gets a lot of his, I don't like the guy professionally. You can call me a YouTube hack all you want. Not that he ever has. But it's pretty sad when Spike TV more or less set up, like we said last week, over the last 90 days, Spike TV has been watching TNA as a company, and them finding out that one of their stipulations for taking the auto renewals for TNA every contract term was that Vince Russo was not on their books. Finding out that Vince Russo was quietly on their books is hurting TNA. And then it's the back and forth of Russo saying he decided to leave, TNA trying to stand tall and as a company look like they were the ones that released them. I don't think you'll ever get the truth. Vince Russo is incapable of the truth. Follow us on Twitter at CWE Company for this and so much more. Let's just take a look at the wrestling news here for a moment on this. Again, August 9th. 2014, we welcome you to WrestleTalkShow. We're talking WWE Network, Alberto Del Rio, Brock Lesnar versus John Cena, the future of wrestling, the future of WWE. What do you think? Comment on this video. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow. In other news, Chris Jericho reveals who gave the okay for Thursday's in-ring wedding proposal at live event. This is a little side note from our wrestling. We love it when mainstream entertainment meets wrestling. It gives the product more lets the product stand out more. As many columnists have said, you're going to have people. What wrestling is trying to do now is what wrestling has been trying to do for years, in that it doesn't. It has to figure out who it is again. I think you'll find that like we just said earlier, the wrestling giant won't be the wrestling giant, and isn't right now. Financially, professionally, you're going to find a lot of inconsistencies over the next couple of months as we said, trim the fat and try to bring back the money that Vince McMahon more or less took from the company years ago, built this network, launched this network, and has now made it no choice but to be the future of sports entertainment and his brand, his company. And what happens if they fall short? And while this page loads, you cannot I think it was sickening to a point to kind of beat in Monday night and Friday night, $9.99 for the network, $9.99 for the network. People that don't want it just don't want it. That's what you're getting there. Just a lot of little things in the week of wrestling, nothing big, as we reported before. There's a lot of little things that over time could be potentially bigger stories, but you have to see how it plays out. Wrestling has always struggled to appeal to people. We've argued for years that Vince McMahon and many other, well, not many other, because no one does it like Vince McMahon has done it over the years, but was it the best idea in the world to not only want to be a part of wrestling entertainment, but mainstream entertainment? Your gimmicks, almost, for lack of better wording right now, Flow Rider and different things where Vince McMahon adamantly wanted to be in mainstream entertainment and not sticking to the roots of wrestling entertainment, where that's all wrestling fans. I mean, we like to mix it up a little bit, but that's what wrestling fans want to see, wrestling entertainment. And when you take JR blog this week that possibly a cost-cutting measure could be taking Raw and SmackDown and doing a double taping, which would ultimately be, again, throwing props where props are due, James Caldwell, 5 hours. You'd be asking fans to sit in an arena for 5 hours while they record Raw and SmackDown. And I'd argue, like the other columnists are arguing right now, 3 hours for Raw is long enough. And without going too far into this, on our next episode, we'll talk more about this, but I don't want to undercut the rest of the wrestling news that is out there today. The page is giving us some issues. The Dixie Carter storyline update following the table bump on TNA Impact Wrestling last week. As this page loads, we'll bring you full circle, more or less summing it up that Bubba Ray and Devon are trying to put TNA owner Dixie Carter desperately through a table. It's been going on for months. Her and EC3 are fighting off Bubba Ray and brother Devon. Just a slow internet day, I guess, for Saturday. This is how today is going to unfold. But let's just take a look at this, shall we? Alright. the update. Pardon me for a moment. Might be my internet. Probably. Oh, there it is. TNA's website posted a storyline update on Dixie Carter, noting that she was removed from the ring by medics and taken to the backstage area after being powerbombed through a table on Impact Wrestling Thursday night. The storyline is that Dixie was sent to the emergency room at Sentinel Hospital, where she was immediately seen by an orthopedic surgeon, neurologist, and radiologist. Tests later confirmed that Dixie has L2 and L3 transverse process fractures, as well as a hairline rib fracture. They added that Dixie has been released from the hospital and is back home in Nashville resting comfortably. How do I feel about this? I guess this is okay. This has kept TNA fans entertained, so I guess there's nothing wrong with it. If she really hurt herself, I don't think back injuries, being one of modern medicine's hardest things to prove and disprove, I don't think that it should be joked about. Having spastic cerebral palsy and back problems as a result of contributing disability. I know firsthand how degenerative and painful these ailments can be. In other wrestling news, Sting talks about changing his entrance after Owen Hart's passing, talking to Brett after the tragedy. This is interesting. Let's check this out as we continue our Saturday morning in wrestling. And we thank you for joining us. Again, Facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow, YouTube.com, the video archive, YouTube.com/CWE Company. Like us, friend request us, follow us. We grow stronger as our fan base grows stronger. We want you to interact. We want to apply what you have to say on the show. Tweet us at CWE Company. There's nothing you can't do. This channel has all of our GoFundMe.com campaign, our custom ink campaign, our booster that we're doing with custom ink, where you can buy a t-shirt as low as $15, and every dollar goes to supporting independent wrestling projects in this area and abroad. We want you to know that it not only goes to the operational fund of this company, whose parent company is Continental Wrestling Entertainment, but independent projects all over the world, nationwide, the grassroots of professional wrestling, as we've been saying for years, as is a fact. And let's just give this one segment here. During the second part of Sting interviews with Jim Ross on the Ross Report, JR asked Sting if he ever considered changing his aerial ring entrance in the wake of Owen Hart's tragic death. To quote the Stinger, "Oh yeah, I sure did. As a matter of fact, I was boarding a plane to go do another event. We were doing Nitro, and I was boarding a plane, taking a red-eye flight out, and I got a phone call on my cell phone, and it said, from CNN, really? Here it is. CNN News, Owen Hart has just been killed, and it was described how it happened. Of course, it was shocking, and you just can't believe what you're hearing. Then I landed, and I saw some of the guys who were going to help do some of the rigging for my gig, and I said, we're not going to be doing this, and they said, why? And I said, Owen Hart died, so I didn't do it, and it was months, and so I didn't do it, and it was months until finally Eric, referring to Eric Bischoff and WCW company people, give us a minute here. Alright. for real. So I didn't do it, and it was months until finally Eric Bischoff and WCW company people kept asking me to do it, and I called and I talked to Brett and I said, what do you think? I'm not going to do it if you don't want me to do it, and if your family doesn't want me to do it, I will not do it. He ended up talking to his family about it, and he called me and said, Steve, we're all fine with it. Go ahead. It's not going to hurt. Ross summed up the segment by explaining that Sting's aerial entrance as his crow persona was an important facet of his character. We all remember the tragic death of Owen Hart. We've discussed it many times here at WrestleTalkShow. But yes, Sting had a similar entrance to Owen Hart, the Blue Blazer, however you remember him. Iconic figure in professional wrestling, tragically missed. And our thoughts and prayers. And we've even been on the negative side of this conversation, taking the position that Martha Hart and WWE every year seem to go round and round with lawsuits. Sting also comments on if his next potential match will be his last. WrestleMania pre-sale note and a Chris Jericho note right here. Let's see what this is all about. Again, for the latest and greatest wrestling news, follow us. Follow WrestlingInc.com, SmartWrestlingFan.com every Tuesday night, 5 p.m. Eastern. They do a 3-hour event covering the weekend wrestling. So there's a lot of, like we said when discussing the network, there's a lot of facets where fans can get summed up without necessarily putting out the money for any sellable product of wrestling. And it's unfortunate because if you already pay for cable, as I said earlier, if you already pay for a cable package and order the pay-per-views, the only real thing that you have to gain is $10 pay-per-views, and there's a lot of people just not doing that. I've argued for years and said they should go back to the way they originally did presented their pay-per-views, where if you didn't see it Sunday night, you weren't going to have spoilers Monday night. They were going to wait till the middle of the week, till they got their repeat when it replayed and they got their buys. And it wasn't necessarily a giveaway. I say to my brother-in-law all the time, why did we just spend on some of their pay-per-views, Battleground being the most recent one where you could have not ordered it and not missed anything. I said over a couple of pay-per-views to my brother-in-law that why did we just spend $60 on that when 8 hours, 12 hours later they open Raw with how it ended? Especially when at the same time Raw is broadcasting following a pay-per-view, they're trying to sell the replays of their most recent pay-per-view. You're not protecting the pay-per-view if you give it away, and the content that you're offering for that $60 the fan just paid for, if you're giving it away to cable, that arguably people spending a chunk of change on in itself. And when you see SummerSlam come in for $9.99, how do you take that? Do you say this is a deal, or do you say we've been overcharging? Join the discussion. Facebook.com/WrestleTalkShow, YouTube.com/CWE Company. Email us your questions for our next debate. Ask us your questions. CWE Wrestling Entertainment Incorporated. That's CWE Wrestling, ENTINC @gmail.com. Until next time, I'm your host, Joshua Zimmerman, for Wrestling Talk Show, saying enjoy the wrestling, don't take it too seriously, and we'll see what happens next week.